Hi, welcome back to Frequently Asked Fridays. I believe this is for today, 8/11. So we'll start out right off the bat answering some of your questions. This is from Torrance, California. What are the indicators for ventilating a newborn according to NRP? So, and then let's start that one over again. I wonder if I need to change clothes. I'll change clothes. Okay, delete that other one. Welcome back to Frequently Asked Fridays. Really happy to be here answering your deepest, darkest neonatal resuscitation questions. So without further ado, let's begin. Let's see, from Torrance, California. What are the indications for ventilating a newborn according to NRP? And then you mentioned something in your class. Other than that, can you repeat that? So, of course. So the indications for ventilating an infant are apnea, not breathing, gasping, not breathing well, or heart rate less than 100, even with a breathing baby. And it has been that at least the last 3 books. I could go back further for sure, but for sure, apnea, gasping, heart rate less than 100, even with a breathing baby, are the indications for positive pressure ventilation. Now, I do mention in class, if you have a retracting, a grunting, a flaring, or rapid respiration babies, to give it a try. Because the most likely problem that is happening is the baby still has fluid in the lungs. And again, I go through clearing the fetal lung fluid and what that process is in my Beyond the Basics Resuscitation of the Newborn webinar series. So check that out. Let's see, from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. What should I do if I see someone responding wrong during a resuscitation? What if it's the person, midwife or OB, in charge? That's a hard one. So with EMS, the recommendation that I often give is that, well, EMS is very familiar with adult, child, and infant CPR, but often are not trained in the specifics of neonatal resuscitation. So you could say to them, you know, I know neonatal resuscitation, may I continue? Or I know neonatal resuscitation, and for newborn babies, you need blah, blah, blah. The same would be for an OB, because I don't believe that most OBs are actually taught neonatal resuscitation. You might want to remind them of what the issue is that is specific to neonatal resuscitation. When they're in charge, it's pretty hard to do otherwise, but I do want to say that it is your responsibility to say something. Even if they don't listen, it is your responsibility to say something to get them to do it correctly or to get help. So if you're working with another provider and they're providing inappropriate care or inappropriate skills, it's your job to say something and as nicely as you can say, you know, I think the count is, or can I help you? I'm not sure the air is going in, or it looks like the air isn't going in. I don't see the chest rise, or something like, can we reposition the head? Or let's not begin chest compressions until we have assured effective ventilation. So it is important to step in and say something if what you see is happening isn't being done correctly. And it's not an easy position to be in. Next question is from Aurora, Colorado. Colorado, that's where I'm calling from. It's a little cool today. I hope all of you are warm. Up to what age can you use neonatal resuscitation? So that's kind of interesting. They talked a little bit about which method, PALS or neonatal resuscitation, to use at the last NRP conference, which I was at in San Francisco. But in terms of, you know, of course, it's appropriate to what the issue is and the problem. I went looking for that specifically before I got online, and I know in the UK resuscitation manual, they say during the newborn period, which is the first 30 days. Now, NRP is not quite so specific, but the one that I came up with is if it's within the first 2 weeks, and then depending on what the issue is, it might be more appropriate to do PALS. So really, I'm going to say about the first 2 weeks, I'm going to go with NRP. I hope that helps. Let's see, Lubbock, Texas. So I've taken resuscitation trainings before, including yours, but haven't performed a resuscitation yet. I'm scared that I won't know what to do in the moment. Do you have any advice? Well, of course I do. So my suggestion is you take my Beyond the Basics Resuscitation in the Newborn webinar series. Again, you get that, you can play it over and over and over and over. And then most important is you have to practice. Even if you watch it over and over, you still have to run your own drills, practice your own scenarios, set it up, just what if she gives birth in the bathroom or in the bedroom or in the car, or what if you're alone and where would you have your equipment? Practice mouth to mouth, practice bag mouth. Use that every single month because you'll have that in the front folder of your computer and you won't be so afraid. Practice the counts, not just practice the counts, because now how I teach it, it's feel the counts, because in case you forget the numbers, I still want you to know basically what has to happen, because it's not the numbers that bring babies around, it's what you're doing that brings babies around. So watch it or take the class again and then plan monthly skills, monthly drills, monthly scenarios. Lots of birth centers already have this set up, so it's actually a pleasure to do a debrief with a birth center because they have that in their practice guidelines that they do practice drills monthly. So wherever you practice, however you practice, that's still my suggestion. I hope that helps. The more you practice, just to say, the more you practice, the less fear you're going to have. The more familiar you are, the less fear you're going to have. Just like I say, if you never touch your equipment except in an emergency, that equipment is going to have a huge charge on it. So practice with your equipment, touch your bag a lot, whatever you use, your stethoscope, your bag. If you use Pitocin, practice drawing up syringes and giving it. I mean, you have to be comfortable with the equipment that you use. Okay, one more question for today, which is 8/11. Scottsdale, Arizona. You mentioned there are 4 things to remember about ventilating. Can you go over them? My favorite thing. Yes. So to know, most likely at birth, the problem is clearing fetal lung fluid. So number 1, it's the most likely problem of fetal lung fluid. If that's not the problem will still be there, ventilating. So when you ventilate, if the problem doesn't go away, you're still going to have a problem. It's not going to create another problem, ventilating, and ventilating does not hurt the baby. So the 4 things are, it's the most likely problem, it's the most likely resolution to the problem, ventilating. If that's not the problem will still be there. If that's not the problem will still be there. It's not going to create another problem, and 4, you are not hurting the baby. So those are the 4 things, which means give it a try. Give it a try and make sure the air is going in. You want to do about 5 effective inflation breaths or the first 15 seconds of ventilation breaths and then just continue breathing. According to NRP, you're doing 30 seconds of effective ventilations before you stop. Okay, I hope that helps. That's it for today's Frequently Asked Fridays on 8/11. I look forward to seeing you on 8/18. If you have any questions for me, please drop me an email. I'm more than happy to go through them. We can leave them anonymous. We don't even have to put the city or state. We thought it would make it a little more personal. Just drop me an email at info@karenstrange.com. Check out my Beyond the Basics webinar series, Beyond the Basics, Resuscitation of the Newborn, Resuscitation of the Newborn webinar series at karenstrange.com/webinars. See you next time. Bye.